Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel for Chelsea player ratings from the 23-24 pre-season. Pochettino's squad is looking good. We still got some players that need to come in. We still got some players that need to leave. I've not rated Jamie Cumming, Lucas Bergstrom and also Eddie Beach in this video today. We've kept it with just Kepa as the goalkeeper because Slanin is also going on loan. We're going to take a look at all of the players, go into each individual, what's been good, what hasn't been so good. The ratings are out of 10, and I've based it on the way I see the ceiling of this player. There are some that you might be like, well, how can you say he's better than him? All right, I'll give my reasons for it. You can give your ratings in the comments down below. If you do enjoy these slightly longer GBFC videos, please hit the like button and subscribe if you are new, because we're on a roll at the moment. Thank you for all the support as always. Let's begin with Christopher Nkunku. 8 out of 10 for me. 3 goals for Nkunku during this pre-season. What have we missed? Players arriving in the box scoring goals. Those players in the final third with a bit of flair, with a bit of pace, with the initiative to do things that have been significantly missing from your Kai Havertz's, your Aubameyangs. Unfortunately, didn't really get the chances, but Chelsea in attack have been so profligate. We have looked so lacklustre in the final third because we've not had the quality. Christopher Nkunku, I believe, is going to be one of those players who this season, you want him in your FPL team. He's going to get assists. He's going to get involved. He goes off injured in the 20th minute against Dortmund, but it was a precaution. The way that he's linking up with those players in the final third, he's one of the experienced players. When you look at the average age of the Chelsea squad, it's like 23.8 years old, which is the youngest in the Premier League. And Nkunku isn't even bloody old. He's 25 years old, but he's going to be one of those players who's been playing top-level football, scoring lots of goals, top scorer in the Bundesliga last year, and I think he bags a lot for Chelsea. And not only that, I think he provides a lot for those around him. Andre Santos, 7.5. He was one of those players I was most looking forward to seeing in this pre-season because I wanted to see what he was all about in the sense of, is he going to be the player who tries too hard? Is he going to try and prove a point to Pochettino by maybe being a bit selfish? You never know with these youngsters who are coming in, desperate to make it at Chelsea. He was delighted with his move from Brazil, but he wasn't like that. What Santos did was take on instructions very well, looked very competent alongside Enzo Fernandez. He sat a lot, making big tackles, very good with his ball distribution, spatial awareness-wise too. Really, really smart. And I think he could definitely be an option for Chelsea, whether we sign a Moises Caicedo or not. If we don't get Caicedo, I wouldn't be trying to skimp out on other average players. I think Santos can definitely be trusted for Chelsea. Nicholas Jackson, wow, what a player we have on our hands here. He gets a 9 out of 10 from me. He would have got a 10 if he'd have buried any more goals against Dortmund and we'd have won that game. He had a couple of chances where he rounded the goalkeeper, but if it wasn't for Ed Sheeran and his concert the night before, the pitch was a disgrace. The ball just didn't fall for him. Everything about this guy impresses me. The way he drops deep, the way he involves those around him, the turn of pace, the ability to roll the shoulder, old school strikers. Like, this is what we're used to seeing. He is, for me, what I would define as the complete forward. He's got everything in his arsenal. We heard at Villarreal that heading wasn't a good part of his game. When you look at his height, that's something that can be worked upon. You start adding a few more headed goals into things, and I think Chelsea have got a player here who we got to talk about. What do we expect from Nicholas Jackson? Premier League, if he gets 15 goals in his first season, what a bargain of a striker Chelsea have managed here. That will all depend, of course, on how many games he gets. Will Chelsea bring Vlahovic in? Will we sign another striker? Right now, if we don't, I'm only concerned about the depth, but in terms of first choice, Nicholas Jackson starts against Liverpool, and I think he continues to play in this Chelsea team. He's my number 9, so he gets a 9 out of 10. Malo Gusto, 8 out of 10. This guy has absolutely shown that not only do we have that array of attacking ability that we were seeing at Lyon, showcased on those numerous highlight videos that we saw, Malo Gusto defensively, very, very strong. Positional awareness for a young player who loves to get forward. Modern day fullbacks, they have to attack a lot more than they used to. Malo Gusto still has that gritty defensive edge to him. Looks really comfortable. And I think with Gusto, we're going to see a lot of minutes for this guy. Reece James, always susceptible to picking up an injury. So with that being said, I look at Gusto and Reece James. And if James is fit, Chelsea's right-back depth this season is probably the best in Europe. Let me know if you disagree. Raheem Sterling, we're going to half the Gusto rating. We're giving Sterling a 4. Would have been less, but he did get himself an assist, which we also have to remember when we're penalising players for poor performances. I still believe that there is a way Pochettino can get more out of Sterling, but my concern with him, which I've said a few times, is how he can stifle the position, the development of players that are more hungry. Sterling doesn't seem to have the urgency of a player that we would expect of a player of such experience. He's one of the most experienced members of this Chelsea squad, and unfortunately, now that he's playing at Chelsea, we're seeing the same traits that we saw at City. End product just not there. I think he'll be given opportunities. I think he'll probably start against Liverpool, but he needs to hit the ground running because I'm not impressed right now. Conor Gallagher, very impressive, 7.5 out of 10. Gets himself a couple of goals. We saw in the game against Dortmund that actually, despite our preconceptions, Conor Gallagher, with the right manager, the right instructions, and I think the fact he's bulked up a bit during this pre-season, he can absolutely do a job there. We saw it against Dortmund, strong opposition. They've got big tacklers in there, strong players, tall players, and Gallagher didn't look out of place. Maybe I could have given him a higher rating here, actually, but Conor Gallagher, very impressed with him. Whether someone comes in with a £45 million bid, he might leave. Caicedo comes in, we might never see him in a pivot again. But I definitely think a player off the bench this season, Gallagher, can absolutely do the job. Ben Chilwell, 7.5. Again, once I've done these ratings, I put the ratings last night and we've made the graphics. Hope you like the look of it. I could have put Chilwell higher, actually. 7.5, because again, I think what we know Chilwell can be, there's still improvements that can be made, but also we absolutely understand it because it's pre-season. This isn't the time to be delivering 10 out of 10 performances, 9 out of 10 performances every game. With Chilwell, the brilliant thing to see was he is an attacker, right? He's playing in the left-back position. We're not using a wing-back system. But when Chelsea are going forward, the amount of chances we create when Chilwell is one of the most advanced players is massive. The guy's got an absolute rocket of a left peg on him. There was that time yesterday against Dortmund where he's basically on the byline, still manages to force a corner with a powerful shot saved by the Dortmund goalie. There was another attempt that he had. He scored a goal. Got to remember that also. He could have had a couple. He could have ended up Chelsea's top scorer in this pre-season, which is testament to the system that Poch is trying to play. My concern is, because he's so high octane, are we going to see him stay fit? But 7.5 is the rating. Thiago Silva, 8.5. When we talk about defenders, we like to compare them to exotic cars. We like to compare them to classy cars. Rolls-Royce, can I use it again? It's overdone, potentially, but I'm going to use it. Rolls-Royce, this guy is a flipping machine. 8.5 is just sublime. Fitness-wise, this is the time you expect players to get fitness. You might think a 38-year-old is going to be puffing a little bit after a couple of weeks in Brazil or wherever he did with his wife and his kids. But no, this guy is class. 8.5 out of 10. Kepa might be a bit unfortunate here to get a 6 because it's not his fault. He didn't have a lot to do. It was because Chelsea was so good defensively. Kepa, I think he didn't really do much wrong. I don't think there's any goals that we can say, well, that's your fault, mate, which we've had to do in the past. But with Sanchez coming in now, expect Kepa to raise his game, because if he doesn't, he's no longer Chelsea's number one. Enzo. This is an interesting one. I've given Enzo a 6.5 out of 10. I think because this guy has such a high ceiling, I know a lot of you get upset when I keep bringing up the price. It's not his fault that he's a £100 million player. That's just what Chelsea were forced to pay. With Enzo, as good as Gallagher was against Dortmund, there was a few fouls coming in during this pre-season. In terms of speed and pace, we know that Enzo's not that guy. We didn't bring this guy in to be a defensive midfielder. We brought him in to be one of those midfielders who can not only make those long-distance passes, integrate the play with the final third, but we brought him in to be productive in the final third, which for me is something that Enzo will improve on when he's facilitated properly with what's around him. So 6.5 maybe seems low, but I do expect more still. And I think that will come throughout the course of this season and when Caicedo comes through the door. Reece James, I've given a 6 out of 10. As much as I love Reece, and I think from the Dortmund game, he's on the pitch, Silva's on the pitch, but where's the armband? It's on Reece James's arm. I think this is as good of a sign as any towards confirmation that Reece James will be the Chelsea captain. And I'm very, very happy about this. But with Reece, I'm still so concerned about his fitness. I think there still looks to me like there's an uncertainty compared to what we saw last season when he was absolutely firing. Remember that game against Spurs when he was all over them at the beginning of the season, scored an incredible goal. And for Reece, I think the attacking part of his game is so strong. Defensively, he's a unit, he's massive, and I think he's got so much better. But with Gusto, there's real competition here. And I wouldn't be surprised if Reece doesn't regain that really strong form, that we see genuine rotation, even if Reece James is fit enough to play. I want more from him. Moving into Trevor Chalobah, 7 out of 10. Maybe I've been a bit unfair here once more. He could have been higher because realistically, he hasn't put a foot wrong during this pre-season. Whether he's going to be sold or not, I think it depends entirely on the fee that Chelsea get for him. But once again, to focus on his football, Trev is a solid defender. I'm interested to see how many minutes, if Trev stays, what that competition's going to be with Axel Disasi. I think Silva is the number one in the right centre-back position, playing in a back two. But with Trev, he's one of them players that is just, you can't dislike the bloke because he doesn't really do anything wrong. And again, 7's probably unfair. Very interested to see what happens with Trev. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Marc Cucurella, 3.5. And you can probably guess by looking at the players we're still to rate, this is the lowest rating in this player ratings video. My problem with Cucurella is the fourth choice left back at the club. Lewis Hall, I think, is better. Matson's better. Chilwell's better. And he's such a liability. And I really want to like him because he's a very likeable player with all of the media stuff he does at Chelsea. But we can't just like a £60 million left back because he's got a great barnet, a very frizzy barnet, and he's good on videos and he comes across as a fun guy. If we were there for fun guys, I'd just be here taking mushrooms and doing this video. But I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it. He just looks as though there's an error that's ready to lead to a goal immediately every time I see him defend. I'm concerned, and I think if the right offer was to come in, Chelsea should cut their losses on Marc Cucurella. Bashir Humphries, 8 out of 10. He's really impressed me during this pre-season. We heard a lot of people in Germany saying great things about him on his loan last year at Paderborn. Bashir Humphries has come in, and I think with both him and Alfie Gilchrist, there's not really been anything they've done wrong. He looks very composed, comfortable on the ball. Probably took a lot from this pre-season, playing alongside Thiago Silva. Bashir Humphries, I think, is a solid centre-back. Whether he has a future at Chelsea with the recruitment that we've done, this season we've bought in Disasi to replace Fofana. We've not looked at Humphries and been like, right, Wesley Fofana's out for the season. That's unfortunate. We've got Bashir Humphries though. He's not at that stage yet, but from what I saw, he was excellent. Levi Colwill. This is where I know you guys are going to start saying, Benson, you're off it, mate. Levi's been exceptional. Only reason I gave him a 7.5 is because he did miss 2 open goals, and I think this guy will become a £100 million centre-back. So, for that reason, these ratings are based on the way I see the ceiling of the player, and it wasn't... defensively, he was just so good, wasn't he? I think I've done myself wrong here. I think I should have given Levi at least an 8 if Silva was an 8.5. Levi is that guy. For me, he's the best left-sided centre-back at the club, and I think he'll grow into being one of the Premier League's best centre-backs. Before I dig myself an even deeper hole, we're moving into Ian Maatsen. For me, the biggest surprise of this pre-season, not because I didn't think he was very good. I did. I was aware of how good he was before, but it's the versatility of Ian Maatsen. He's not just a left back, left wing back. He's a left winger. He's a central attacking midfielder. He can play on the right wing. Chelsea need a Mr. Versatile. We need someone who isn't just comfortable playing in different positions, but someone who's actually good, understands positionally the role and instruction he's been given. And I think that is the biggest credit we can give to Ian Maatsen. For a player who's still young, just coming in, working with new players, working with a new manager, the way he's taken on instructions, playing in different positions, game by game, half by half, even halves of halves. You know, we've seen him all over the gaff. Scored a goal, could have had more. And I think Ian Maatsen is one of those players who we will look at this season. I think he scored 2, actually. I think he's going to be used a lot. And I think when it comes to looking at the weakness potentially on that right side, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ian Maatsen used in games that we maybe should be winning if Sterling isn't kicking on, if Madueke's still not fit. Don't be surprised to see Ian Maatsen playing on the right, or maybe Mudryk over on the right with Maatsen on his preferred left side. But this guy can do everything. Phenomenal. Alfie Gilchrist, 7.5. I think he's had a really good pre-season. Again, difficult conversation because as good as he looked, as comfortable as he looked, Chelsea weren't really peppered defensively, so we didn't have to see too much, probably because Gallagher was the one making the diving tackles and the blocks before it even got to the defenders. Chelsea defended well as a unit during this pre-season. Alfie Gilchrist, there's been a lot said about him in the development squads, in the youth squads at Chelsea. He's got a really bright future. Don't think he's going to be in the first team this season, but I'd like to see him get a decent loan. Send him to the Championship maybe. Keep him as the captain of the Premier League 2 side. Alfie Gilchrist, very good. Kane Chukwuemeka. I've given him a 7, which seems very harsh. I would have given him maybe a 7.58, but he really went missing for me in the first half against Dortmund. Pochettino takes the team into the dressing room at half-time, doesn't take Kane off. What do we see in the first 15 minutes of that second half? Kane getting on the ball, making things happen. If you watch the interview after the game with Kane Chukwuemeka and Zach Gelab of Chelsea TV, Chukwuemeka was asked about what was new under Pochettino, what has he enjoyed, what is he working on? And Carnes was saying about how he was working on in tight spaces around the box. What's he going to do? What is that end product going to be? And we've seen that develop. I think Kane Chukwuemeka is one of the players I'm most excited for in the build-up to this season because he has shown that as a number 10, if Chelsea don't bring in more enforcements going forward, Christopher Nkunku, first choice number 10 for me right now, but Kane Chukwuemeka can absolutely be utilised. The way that his body is, he's strong, he's got the ability to burst past players, he's got that little bit of space with a static foot, which is really, really useful in the Premier League with Chelsea creating openings. Kane Chukwuemeka, again, probably I did these ratings last night, and I think now he should be higher. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We're into the final right side here of this tier list. Cassidy, giving him a 7. I think when it comes to looking at midfielders, Santos and Cassidy were the 2 that I would have been comparing in the build-up to pre-season. And now that we've seen Cassidy play, he was featuring more at the start, but Pochettino said towards that final game against Dortmund, it's kind of more a team that is in his plans to start the season. With Cassidy, we've seen him used a bit less as pre-season's gone on. And I think that's because what we saw from him in the opening stages was really good. He's energetic, he's lively. But I still think in terms of positional identification, profiling of what the roles that Poch wants the players to do are, I think Santos is easier to mould into someone to take instructions and hold. I think with Cassidy, there's still such a license to go forward. And that is such a strong part of his game that I think right now at Chelsea, Chukwuemeka is ahead of him in that area. Santos is ahead of him defensively. So a loan move is the right one, but very impressed with Cassidy. Lewis Hall, giving him a 7 as well. This guy can play everywhere, as well as Maatsen. I think Lewis Hall has got a wand of a left foot. I think this season, if we see him get minutes, we're going to be saying, well, we rant and raved about the magician of Hakim Ziyech's left peg, but Lewis Hall, man, this guy can cross. We've seen him do bits against Newcastle last year, bits against Man City last year. This guy, 18 years old. I'd love him to stay in the Chelsea squad this season. He gets a 7. Mudryk, 7.5. End product, it still needs to improve. Final decision making still needs to improve. But wow, this guy, this season is going to explode. When it comes to predictions, I'm going to predict right now. Mudryk became a bit of a laughing stock last year. Massive money move, Chelsea pip Arsenal to the deal, and then Mudryk starts well against Liverpool, but then it kind of peters off a little bit. Chelsea petered off last season. We were Peter Rabbit for most of the season. You know, we were playing like rabbits, although rabbits run a bit more than we did. Mudryk, that touch, it's getting everyone off their toes. We've reposted it on every social platform Chelsea have got. Everyone's talking about it. Neymar-esque, but it just looks better than Neymar, doesn't it? This guy is a confidence player. When Mudryk's got confidence, when he does these explosive things, he makes things happen, but not just for the team, for himself. You can see it. He has that little grin when he knows he's done something good. And Pochettino is the best manager I can think of to develop this guy, to work with this guy, to make sure that in this development, as a young player with huge weight and expectation on his shoulders, we control the ego, we make sure he remains humble, we make sure that we turn him into that blistering midfielder, the winger that nobody wants to play against. When it comes to standing foot, running, this guy is Gareth Bale, but on another level. He's Mbappe, but quicker. Mykhailo Mudryk this season is huge for Chelsea. Watch this space. Angelo, 7, really impressed with him. Towards the end, we didn't see him as much, which suggests to me that Pochettino probably is going to send him on loan. Strasbourg, keep an eye on this guy. He's so young, so good, so much talent, makes things happen, wants to make things happen, but is also not selfish. He understands his role in the team. He doesn't want to try and overcompensate by proving a point, and that is what I've liked about the young players in this pre-season. Diego Moreira, it's a 6. We saw him a bit more early on. Didn't see him at all towards the end, and I think that's because a loan move is necessary. In terms of all of those young wingers, Angelo, I guess you could also probably, look at Maatsen in the same category. Moreira's still very raw. He needs to improve. 6 out of 10. Mason Burstow, I've given a 7. Didn't see much in the first appearance, but he gets his first Chelsea goal, which is massive for his confidence moving forward. When Pochettino was asked about him, he obviously says it's a delight for the player. Mason Burstow was playing at Maidstone only a couple of years ago. Non-league football, goes to Charlton. Chelsea see the talent, snap up the talent, and he scores to make sure that Chelsea end pre-season without losing, which actually, psychologically for Chelsea, that Burstow goal, the most important one of all of them. For Chelsea to not lose a pre-season game, it's the first time we've done that in 12 years, like we said at the start of the video. And Mason Burstow's the reason for it. It's an intelligent header. He knows that he's not going to get the leverage because there was no power on the ball from that header from Enzo for the assist. He's got to just loop it and keep it out of reach of the keeper, who's also bloody short, and the defenders that are lurking around the line. And Mason Burstow broke Chelsea's personal deadlock in that game because Dortmund defended so well. We should have won it, but Burstow made sure we didn't lose. As you can see here, these are my completed player ratings for Chelsea's pre-season. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I know for some of them, they're probably lower than they should have been or higher than they should have been. Player ratings are coming back this season. We've only got 1 game a week, so 6 things we learned immediate after the game. And player ratings will be where we deep dive into things a bit more. We're going to look at stats, analysis. I'm going to go in, going to research a lot more this season. So if you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to GBFC if you are new. August is busy, we're pumping. I'll see you guys later. Come on, you Blues.